In this lesson, we'll learn about a simple process that'll help us to select colors for a project. Okay, now up until now we've pretty much been discussing the basics of color theory. We've also talked about how color is tied to communication, how it affects our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions. Now you may be at this point wondering, how would I tie everything that we've talked about, everything that we've learned, into my work? How can I integrate this knowledge into what I do? Well, now we're going to talk about a process that will help you to select colors for a project. Now, in front of me here I have a grayscale logo. This logo was already designed in grayscale before color was applied to it. So this is for a client named Papa. It's Papa's Drive-In. Now, let's talk about Papa's Drive-In Theater for just a moment here. Now, the first step in this process would be to clearly define the desired results of this logo. And this step is actually probably going to occur long before we ever start designing the logo itself. It's really in the early stages of project development here, but let's just say when Papa came to us and talked about his drive-in theater, he said, you know, I really want to have a drive-in theater that is sort of a throwback to the 1950s drive-ins in the past. Really recreate that feeling and that experience for people to come in and just experience that. Now, in hearing that, one thing we'd probably want to start out doing is defining who our target market is and really exploring their needs. Now, in hearing that Papa wants to recreate that 1950s drive-in theater experience, so let's just say his target market is probably going to be people who grew up first in the 1950s. Maybe their children. Maybe they want to bring their children to one of the drive-in theaters that they used to go to so they can experience that and learn a little bit about that time period. So let's take that target market and think about their needs. What do they need to recreate that experience? And at this point you could research the 1950s drive-ins, look at the color schemes that were used, look at the designs, just really compile a lot of research on this. But one thing that may help you is also to make a list of adjectives, feelings you want them to take away from this drive-in theater, feelings and emotions, and just that'll help you just develop sort of the feel for the overall logo. Now, once that's all done, you would actually start the design work. So let's just skip ahead a little bit and get to the point where we have our logo designed and we're ready to select colors. So the next step here is to select a main color. And by saying main color, I really mean the base color for the project. Now, this project is going to be one where there's one color that's probably a little more dominant than the other colors. It's used in more areas. So let's go ahead and develop that base color first. Once we have that established, we can start thinking beyond that. But I'm going to come in here and access the color picker in Adobe Illustrator just by double clicking on my fill color here, and you can see that the color palette pops open and we've got our color picker here. Now this color picker is it's very similar to other Adobe applications, and in thinking about the colors that existed in the 1950s that were really popular in drive-in theaters and diners and such, I think of a lot of really bright colors, a lot of really saturated colors, really creating sort of an aura of energy and of fun and excitement. So in looking at our logo, I'm thinking that maybe we want to use some nice reds as a good base color for this logo. So let's go ahead and pull up a red here. Let's just go with a really saturated color. Now when choosing your base color, you want to go really at full saturation. We can always think of tints and shades and tones a little bit later, but let's go ahead and deal with colors at pretty much full saturation for right now. So right now I've got a pretty saturated red going on. Maybe I want to tone this back just a little bit by adding a little bit of blue to it. This creates a little more of a cool red. So I'm going to just move this little slider down, and you can see as I move it down, it's moving it around the color wheel and a little bit more towards that violet, or that red violet, and maybe we don't want quite that much. Just to fine tune this color, we may come in here and just adjust this hue number, and using the keys on the arrow keys on our keyboard, I'm just going to move that number up just a little bit here and get a nice color that I'm pretty comfortable with. I think that one is looking pretty nice, and once I have that, I'll go ahead and hit OK, and let's just draw a square here with that color, giving us a nice point of reference to work with. Now if we want to tweak that color a little more, we can always come in and just use our color palette here. Now I've got my color palette set up to use the hue, saturation, and brightness sliders just like we've got in our color picker. So if I wanted to maybe add just a little bit more blue, I could come up here and just increase that just a little bit, or decrease that just a little bit. However, you want to tweak that color if necessary. So I'm going to set about let's go 344, 343 here, and let's go from here. Now this color is our base color. We're going to use this color to develop the other colors in our color scheme. Now Illustrator has some really great tools that can help us to do that, and the first one I'd like to go ahead and just show you here is this color guide palette right here. Let's go ahead and just take a look at this. Now in this color guide you can see that it's displaying shades and tints of our colors. Now we've got some sort of arbitrary colors here. These aren't really pertaining much to our project, but you see that color that I have selected right there. We can come in here and maybe select grayscale, and there it'll show us tints and shades of different grayscale colors here. But in order to go ahead and develop our color scheme next, I'm going to go ahead and access the live color features in Illustrator, and we can get to those by clicking on this little color wheel button right down here. Let me just go ahead and click on that now, and you can see this little dialog window comes up and it says recolor artwork. Now the reason that it says that is because if we had some artwork already on our screen that had already been colored, we could use this dialog to adjust all of the colors in that artwork at once. But we're not doing that now. Actually, there's quite a few features here. Now I'm not going to go into every little feature here, but what I want you to go to is this edit button right here. And this edit button will get us over to our color wheel. Now, because the overall color scheme we're using right now is really grayscale, all these little circles are really close into the center of our color wheel here, and our brightness is pretty low. So I'm just going to go ahead and adjust some of these now, pull them out, and you can see here that we've got sort of a color palette that is evolving, and we've got several different colors going here. We've got several little color circles selecting different colors on our color wheel. All these colors are represented up here in this little bar. Now that's way too many colors for this project, so let's go ahead and just use this drop down menu right here, and this drop down menu will allow us to select from a large number of color harmony rules. Now several of these we talked about. There's a lot in here that we didn't. Whatever the needs of your project are, these are a great place to start from. I think we can get the color done for this project with really maybe 3 colors. So let's just go ahead and select the color, this triad color right here. Now this triad colors harmony rule will allow us to use 3 colors on the color wheel, all spread out in an equilateral triangle, and we can just move those around by grabbing our base color right here, the one with the big thick stroke around it, and moving them like so. Now we've got our brightness right here down below set pretty low, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring that up and into a nice bright range here. Let's just go ahead and bring that all the way up. Since we already established what the base color for our project is, I'm going to go ahead and work to get our base color somewhat the same here. So if we just move that up to where I can see that a little bit, I'm going to move this around and just sort of tweak that until I get a color that I'm pretty happy with, something that's close to the color we already we talked about at the a little earlier. So moving that around just a little bit, I think that we're getting close. I think it was around 342 on the color wheel for the hue. So I think that's good right there. Okay, since I've gone ahead and established this base color, I'm going to come over here and look at the other 2 legs of this triad triangle here. And those 2 colors are represented right in here. And I'm really kind of liking that red color, but I'm not feeling this yellow or this blue quite as much. Now this is where I'm going to deviate just a little bit to get to some colors that I really like. Now I'd like to just go and point out to you at this point, now these 3 colors are also being sent over to our color guide, and you can see what's going on here. The color guide is giving us these three hues right here at full saturation, and then it's giving us tints and shades of those 3. So as I move these around, it's adjusting them in the color guide. But again, I'm going to go ahead and just deviate from this just a little bit here. So I'm going to bring your attention to this little thing that looks like a link of chain here. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and that's going to break the link between these three that's causing them all to move at the same time when we adjust one. Now, in doing this, it's going to allow me to grab these other colors that are not my base color and adjust them independently. So maybe I want my yellow to have just a little bit more red in it, just a little bit more of a warm yellow. And I'm going to move that just over, tweaking that just a little bit here, until I get something I'm happy with, and I think that's pretty good. I'm looking up here at this little swatch up here. Now my blue is a little bit dark. I don't want something quite that blue. I think in the 50s a lot of their blues were a little closer to a cyan. They also had some sort of seafoam greens, maybe down and around here. So I'm going to move this over here and grab a blue that's maybe right around in here, a little closer to that cyan blue. And I like those three colors right there, so I'm going to go ahead and at this point and add them to a color group. Now I know there's a lot of features that we haven't talked about in this dialog, and this is really a full-featured, robust dialog with a lot of tools here. But that create group color group icon is right here. It's a little folder with a plus next to it, and if I click that, it's going to add my color group right over here to the right. Now, once I've done that, I can go ahead and click OK on this dialog and close this out. And you can see here that those three colors are here in my color guide, and I'd also like to just show you that they've also been created as a swatch group here in my swatches palette. Now that we've developed our base color and two additional colors, in the next lesson we're going to go ahead and begin applying these colors to our logo.